Hi, I'm Jennifer Eichelberger, the book illustrator, and today I have done something that I haven't done before, which is bring on someone else and interview them. This is another illustrator, Mark Harmon. We talk about art, we talk about faith, and talk about how you don't need to be afraid to do the right thing, to just do it. Guys, I hope you enjoy this, and we want you to put comments down below, talk to us. Have any of you had experiences about doing your art where maybe you had fear of doing certain things and putting it off, but then doing it, or maybe you're still afraid of doing things? We want to hear about that, talk about that down below in the comments. Go ahead and like this video while you're at it and enjoy the ride. Thank you. Okay, well, let's get going.
Okay.
And I appreciate you willing to do this. I'm interested in hearing a little bit more about your story. And let's start off. Um, First of all, I'll say why I invited you onto my channel. I had done a video last week where I talked about doing illustration, but learning to put God first in that. And you had put a comment down, and some of the things that I had talked about, you had said that you had had some similar thoughts and feelings on those things as well. And so I thought, well, it might be pretty cool if I had you on and we could talk about art, we could talk about faith. We're going to start off, though. I want to talk about your art and find out like when you started and what you're doing now, things like that.
Okay. Well, it's sort of cliche, but like I started, when I was a small kid, I always was drawing on everything, and report cards always came back saying that things were too messy because there's drawings all over
That
them.
sounds familiar.
Yeah. So I mean, that's where it technically started, I guess. But I graduated from Southern Utah University in 2008, I think. And then I've just been freelancing ever since then. Like I've been doing mostly like religious stuff and like educational stuff. So it's kind of the stuff that most people probably won't see out in the world. It'll probably just be like mostly little kids will see them on activity books and stuff like
Right.
that. So it's kind of like that's the bread and butter that pays the bills and does that stuff.
Right.
So I wish I was like I had like children's books out there, or I wish I had some sort of big name something. But right now I'm just
Right.
doing lots and lots of little things and whatever. But
Yeah, I remember you are working. I don't, maybe you finished, but last year, was it the year before? You were working on your graphic novel, and you let me see a preview of it, and I did a little critique on it. I didn't read through the whole thing because I kind of ran out of time, but that was a fun that was a pretty fun project. Tell me a little bit more about that project.
okay, so that's actually one of those things where I felt like I had a similar thing to what you said, that you said you were working on a graphic novel, and you said something about you were spending way too much time on it. And that project for me, I've been working on it for over 10 years. So
Right.
it's a little embarrassing like to say that, to like, oh, I've been working on a book for 10 years. And but I haven't been working on it like constantly. There was years in there where I didn't even touch it. So,
Yeah.
but I first started like over 10 years ago. And but yeah, I've just been working on it when I can. And it's like 240 pages, so it's kind of a monster, but but I'm pretty close. Like I literally have about 6 pages left to
Dude,
do for
whoa,
like, yeah,
nice.
for final artwork, and then it's done. Well, no, because it's 10 years old, I need to go back and like fix some like word balloons and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, then other than that, it's done. But then after that, I don't know what to do with it. Like I have an agent, and I've given it to her, and I don't know if she's quite shopping it around as much as I want her to. So I don't know if this is one of those things I need to take into my own hands, whether I just try to like do a Kickstarter or GoFundMe and then print a bunch and take them to shows and just see what happens. I don't know.
I
But
know. Like I gotta say, I've had similar thoughts with my own graphic novel where I'm like, I have I don't have an agent yet, and I have submitted it to various agents, and it's like I had one agent in particular who I had really wanted as an agent, and she liked it a lot, but she had just signed on somebody else who was doing another graphic novel in the same genre. And so she's like, it would be a conflict of interest. I can't take you on. And so I was disappointed in that. But and then I submitted at other places and had people be like, "Oh, this is good, but it's not right for my list," type of thing. And I keep wondering the same thing, like, do I want to go the traditional route? Do I want to go self-publishing? There are costs and benefits to both. It's not a straightforward answer, I don't think.
Yeah, I've been like, I don't know if you know Will Terry. He's been kind
Yeah,
of talking about how he does stuff, and I can kind of see some similar stuff that he's been talking about, and like the benefits, the pros and cons to getting a publisher versus doing it yourself. And
right.
yeah, it's tricky. So
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out too. That's one reason why I started my channel. I'm like, as I'm figuring it out, I'm just gonna put stuff up. And it's not like I'm an expert. It's not like I really know what I'm doing. I'm like, this is what I'm working on a graphic novel. We'll see where it takes me. I hope that it does well. I hope it um that people will connect with it, but who knows? I'm sure it's similar to you where it's this project that you hold dear to your heart. It's something that you've been working on for so long and that you love, but it's like it's time to put it out there.
yeah, 10 years is a little too much to be mulling it over and whatever. So it
Yeah,
really
I've
needs
been
to.
working on mine even longer than you, so I know what you mean.
Yeah. And it's funny, I don't know if like non-artists or people realize, people that aren't authors, I don't know if they realize that, like, I think when an author puts out a book, it's new to everybody else, but like to them, I think they're sick of seeing it. Like
Yeah,
I'm tired of looking at these pages that I've seen for the past 10 years. But it's like when you put a book out, it's like, oh, cool, it's all new to them. But you're just like, oh, I'm so done looking at this book, like
right,
you're done with it, and they haven't even started, and it's so
right.
this it's this funny thing. But the thing that I really wanted to do with this book was, like, I'd never done such a huge graphic novel before. And I actually have a different project that is sort of like my really like passion project. And this is the one I've been working on for 10 years now, is just kind of like my practice to make sure I can do it, to see that I can write a big graphic novel. In these 10 years, I've been writing this one that's almost done, but I've also been writing this other one off to the side that like I really want to do. So it's kind of like I'm trying to get this one out to get my foot in the door to then promote this one, which is actually more of almost like a faith-based graphic novel.
Oh,
So
right,
the one that's almost done is, it's just a goofy fun story about this
right.
flying guinea pig. But the one that I really want to do is actually more of like a personal faith-based type of thing.
Oh, awesome. So that's the other thing I wanted to ask you about. Like, how does your art and your faith intersect? What are some of the thoughts that you've had when it comes to doing your art and your faith and how that goes together?
Yeah, so for sure, the when I first started, I basically, I just made, I don't know if it was like a promise, but I was just like, I am not going to work on anything that my kids can't watch me work on. And so I even got, my first published jobs were in college. I got some illustrations for a magazine called Realms of Fantasy magazine. I don't know if it's still around anymore. I think it's kind of an old defunct magazine,
Okay.
but like I had got some work for that while I was in college, and then they gave me some more work. But this more work, they're like, "Hey, we got the story for you. We want you to do it." And it was full of sex, drugs, and rock and roll and foul language, and it was terrible. And I was just a nobody right out of college. And
Right.
I was like, man, I don't want to turn down work because I'm a
Right.
nobody and I'm just starting. So like, who am I to turn down work? Or who am I to even say like, hey, I can't do this because blah blah blah.
Right.
But I was like, whatever, I'm gonna go ahead and try it. So I told them, I was like, hey, you know what? I kind of want to go this direction with my stuff, with my career. Do you maybe have any kind of other stories I could do that doesn't have this stuff in it? And they were just like, oh yeah, sure, here, do this one instead. Like, so like
That's,
it wasn't a big deal. Like I
oh,
freaked out
that's so
over it.
great. You were sweating bullets coming up to that,
I,
I'm
I,
sure.
wa- I was like, man, I'm gonna tell them I can't do this because of this and this, and they're gonna put me on some list, and I'm never gonna get work again. I mean, it was this stupid idea that doesn't even exist. Like, there's no list, I don't think. And anyway,
Right, right.
but like, but yeah, they're like, oh yeah, no problem. Here, do this story instead. And so I did this other story, and it was fine. Like, it all worked out.
That's great. I have internal fears about things, about wondering what people are going to think about it. And then so often it's like, nobody cares. Like,
Yeah.
whatever.
So I just recently started a YouTube channel like in September, where I do a live drawing show. And so I turn on the camera, I have this blank sheet, and then I let the audience tell me what to draw, and then I take suggestions from the audience, and then I draw it in about an hour or whatever. And
Oh, nice.
and again, it was one of those things where again I was sweating bullets. I was like, this is the first time I've really ever been on camera. I've always been hiding behind my little cartoon avatar online. And so now I'm like, I'm actually putting myself out there, and this is going to be crazy, and people are going to do all this judging stuff. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, my brain just like thought of all these terrible scenarios. And so I start this YouTube show, and I was like, oh, nobody cares. Like,
Right,
no, nobody's even watching this thing. And it
right.
was just like all this like self-internal talk that you like everything's gonna be crazy and whatever. And it's like, oh wait, nobody's even watching this thing. Nobody cares. And
Right,
so it's just like
right.
worrying over nothing.
Yeah, yeah, I've done the same thing. Like, even with me starting my channel, because I had thought for a long time, I'm like, oh, I need to do a YouTube channel and I need to incorporate my faith with art. Like, I really did feel like that's what I needed to do. But I have put it off and put it off and put it off because of that internal fear that I had about bringing these two things together, that like people who are interested in illustration, they're not going to care about faith. People who want to hear about faith, they're not going to care that much about illustration. And I was like, i'm gonna I'm gonna have an audience of like two people, which is kind of true. I have like 16 followers so far, so but
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm doing it.
my drawing show, I've been going for almost 6, 7 months now, and I have like 70 subscribers,
Okay.
and like regular people that watch maybe like 20, and of those 20, like 15 of them are just family and friends. So like
Yeah.
it's so it's basically just like me and my brothers and sisters getting together and watching me draw. That's what it is so far. But
Oh, okay. I mean, that's pretty fun. If right now you don't have a huge audience, you at least have your family who can participate with you.
yeah.
Besides at the very beginning, when you had that conundrum of, oh, if I turn down this work, will I ever be able to work again? And you were able to talk to them, and they're like, yeah, we've got other stuff you can do. So have there been other times in your life where there's been moments where you've had mind shifts, or times when you felt guided by the Holy Spirit or by God to go a certain direction or anything?
Ooh, that was a loaded question. I don't know. I mean, but I think that's how it works sometimes, right? I think, all right, let me kind of go on a tangent here for a second.
Okay.
Maybe not so much a preachy sermon, but maybe. But I think we members of the church, I think we have this issue. And I think this issue is, and especially like, whoops, especially if you've grown up in the church, I think you have this issue. I think you grow up in the spirit, and I think you're surrounded by the spirit so much that I don't think you know that you're always feeling the spirit. Like, it's almost like, I don't know, it's almost like things are so good, it's almost like you become numb to it. And so you don't realize how much you're actually being guided and led, especially if you're doing all the things you're supposed to be doing, right? Like saying prayers and reading scriptures, going to church and all this stuff. I think if you're doing those things, you have the Spirit with you. But then I think we have the Spirit with us so much. I don't think you realize it until it's actually gone. And I think like if you do something that really offends the Spirit and it leaves, then you're like, oh man, like I didn't realize how much I was always feeling the Spirit because I definitely don't feel it right now, you know.
Right.
And so I don't know. So I think that the Lord leads us like little bits and pieces. And I think we're being led so gradually that we may not realize it, right? Like we always want like an Alma or a Paul experience where we get knocked down to the earth and an angel slaps us in the face or
Right.
whatever. Like we
Yeah.
always want that. But the problem is those people were on a very wrong road. So if you're going to get slapped in the face by an angel, that means you were doing something real bad. And I don't think you
Right.
want to be in that situation,
I
right?
was just thinking the same thing. I'm like, those guys had those because they were going the wrong direction, and they needed that massive spiritual slap to get on the right path.
I think I've just been guided little by little and things, there's times where like, man, things were just really rough and I wasn't getting any work. And then I just fast and pray, and all of a sudden a random job just shows up in my inbox, like stuff like that. Like little things like that would happen all the time. So I don't feel like there's been this huge like, Mark, you need to create this thing. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
any
Yeah.
some like big like light from heaven calling. But I think I've been gradually been given jobs that I need to be doing. And I have been getting most of my work has been like religious work. And so like that's helped that like, drawing Jesus and drawing angels and all this stuff. Like it helps me stay on the right track too. So
Oh,
I don't know, stuff like
nice.
that.
I'm going to share with you a little something that happened to me. This was several years ago. So I had that experience where I realized I had not ever given my will over to God. And then I went up and I prayed and I was like, okay, God, I'm willing to give it up. If that's what you want me to do, I'll give it up. And the answer was, you don't have to give up your art, but thanks for giving me your heart. And like, I feel like that was a moment where my faith and my love of Jesus Christ and the gospel started growing and growing. Like it's not that I didn't love the gospel before then, but I feel like that was just a point where it really started increasing at that time. And I remember after a few years, I was like, one day I was thinking about it and I was like, oh man, does God just want me to do church, like spiritual, like church related images? Is that what I'm supposed to do? And I was kind of bummed out. I was like, oh, but I don't want to do just pictures of Jesus. And I was sitting in my studio and I kind of called out to God and I was like, God, I just want to do good stories. And the Holy Spirit came in and hit me, and like it was like the Spirit said in my mind, it was like, exactly, make good stories. And that was the answer to that, where I was like, okay, I've had this faith of God building up, but he doesn't just want me to do pictures of Jesus holding lambs, and I'm
Yeah.
not saying that that's bad. Like I love those kind of paintings and stuff, but that isn't, you don't only have to do that kind of work.
And there is plenty of that out there
Right, there
already.
is. Well, maybe let me talk about this. What are you hoping to see in the future for your career? What are you hoping to see come about with your graphic novels and things like that?
I think the thing I'm hoping to see is the thing that I've been hoping for since 2008, and that is to be the sole provider for my family with my artwork. And so far that hasn't happened. Like I work and my wife works, and her job mostly basically pays the bills. Like she's basically the sole provider. And I gotta say that's not a very fun thing to admit, like as a man who was
Right.
supposed to be like the provider. So that's always been kind of a hard thing. So really, I mean, that's what I want. I want to be able to just make an income that allows her to stop working. And that's basically the whole thing. Like, I don't care about getting rich or famous or anything. I just want to be like, I'm the provider and I'm providing with this talent that God gave me.
So you say you have an agent, but you feel like your agent isn't shopping around the graphic novel as much as you would hope. Work, is she getting you illustration work? Is that the mostly the educational and the religious work that you're getting? Does that come from your agent?
Yeah, and I think it's because she's more of an art rep. And so I
Oh,
think because she's not really a literary agent, and I kind of think that's why it's not really going. So I guess I need to sit down and have a chat with her and just kind of be like, hey, do you mind if you be my art rep? And then I also get like a literary agent to sort of actually shop the book around.
right.
So that's kind of my issue right now is I guess I'm asking her to do a job that I don't think she really does.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I don't know anyone that has both an art rep and an agent. I don't know how that would work. Like, would it be like, I'm your art rep, so I get a chunk of this, and I'm your agent, so I get a chunk of it. Like, how
Yeah,
does it work?
I have no idea how it works, so I'll
Yeah,
have to
okay.
ask.
There was a couple of years recently, I didn't touch my graphic novel for about 2 years. And because I kept feeling, I was like, well, I probably should find an agent and get it to a publisher first because they're probably going to want to make changes to it. And so I was like, worked on my website and was getting my website up to where I wanted it and whatever. Still wasn't working on it. And then it kind of hit me. It was last year where I was like, why am I waiting for someone else to give me permission to finish my graphic novel? Like, I'm just
Yeah.
going to keep working on it. So I started working on it again.
Yeah, and especially like they'll probably make changes that like you really don't want to make. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
they might want to take the story in even a different direction or completely change the whole main character or something. So it's just kind of like yeah, do I really want to give it to somebody else to like hack up, you know?
right.
Like
And
I have it where I want it.
I feel that like a good editor will see your vision and help you guide your vision. I feel like it's a bad editor that has their own vision and tries to steer it the way that they want it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think there's both out there.
Yeah.
So you just
Yeah,
gotta
there's
you gotta be picky about who it is.
yeah.
But you don't know. You just don't know until you're doing it.
I was saying, well, they don't know us either. You know, it's like we don't know what they're gonna do. They don't know what we want, and so
Right.
it's always a game of trying to mind read, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. I've heard like in the past year, I've heard so many kind of nightmare stories about the traditional publishing route from different guys, like not just like children's book authors and illustrators, but other people writing like nonfiction stuff. And like just hearing a few different people with their experience working with traditional publishing. And I'm like, oh, that sounds terrible. Of course, I have a friend of mine who just last year, was it last year or the year before? Anyway, she got her agent and then her work went up for auction. Like they had several publishers wanting her work. And so it went up for auction and her first book deal was like this six-figure for her first four books, six-figure deal. I mean, it's pretty amazing. She had this great experience.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, it would, right? Anyway, but her books are coming out one year after another. So that six figures stretched out over 4 years because it's the first four books, right? So it's like
Yeah.
it's not that much money when you think about it being stretched over 4 years. So
Yeah, I've done some graphic novels for publishers and like, the first book I did, it paid around like 13,000 and that like sounds awesome, but it was over like 2 years. So
so
that was
you get nothing. It's
yeah, nothing. And then like the second one I got paid more. It was like 23,000, and that was like a year, but still it's like that was like the only thing I did because it kept me so busy. So that year I
Right.
only made $23,000. So it's like that's not anything great,
Right.
you
That's not
know?
a livable income.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, I have another friend who does work for games or whatever, and her work is awesome. It's amazing. I don't want to name names because I don't know how much they would want their stuff to be shared. But
Yeah.
anyway, this friend of mine does amazing work, and the games that she does oftentimes become these massive bestsellers. Like, but they're paying her a flat rate, and basically she's like calculating it. She's like getting minimum wage to do these
Yeah.
amazing illustrative works, and it's like they don't value her artwork, because they're
Yeah.
not paying her what she's worth.
Yeah, that's been one thing I found over the years doing freelance stuff is there'll be some jobs where it may pay like $400 and it only takes me like 2 hours to do. So in that instance, I made like $200 an hour.
Right.
But then
Yeah.
then a different job, I got paid whatever, and it took me this long, and then I work it out, and I got paid like $3 an hour. So it's just like
Yeah.
it's all over the place. And I don't
Yeah.
know if you've had sort of the same like experience, but like it seems like for some reason freelance work, it's always this feast or famine period
Yeah.
where like I'm either totally swamped doing like four jobs at once, and then I'll get absolutely nothing for like 2 months, just zero work. And then that's when I work on my graphic novel.
Right.
And then boom, then I'm swamped again. So I got to put away the graphic novel, and then I do this stuff for clients. And then boom, then it drops again. Then I work. So that's kind of like that's when I'm working on this graphic novel is these lulls of nothing. And so I have to fill my time with something, you know?
Right. Right. Yep. No, I totally get it. I do that too, where it's like I'll have tons of work, and then there'll be nothing. And I'm fortunate enough y- to be in a position where my husband has a good job, so I don't have to be bringing in money. So I can work on my graphic novel a lot. And I realize like that's a privileged position that I'm in.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like I don't have that same feeling like you as a man, you feel that burden of I should be providing for my family. I should be the one doing that. And so I don't necessarily have that feeling myself. And so I although I do feel bad, I'm like, oh, I should get a job somewhere so I can bring in consistent income. Anyway, it but my thought is I want to give this graphic novel the best shot it has and see if it where it can take me. And then I'll go and quit and be a janitor, whatever. Not
Yeah.
not not quit artwork, but like d- not just work on my graphic novel, like do some other things. That's kind of my idea on it anyway. So is there any last thoughts that you might have, or or you know what, tell us what your YouTube channel is, tell us how people can look at your stuff, your website address, things like that.
Okay, sure. So the YouTube channel is called Comic on Demand. And I stream every Tuesday at 7 o'clock Mountain Time.
Is that in the morning
Uh,
or the evening?
PM, sorry, 7
Okay.
at 7 p.m. So yeah, come watch that, everybody. And then my website is Mark Harmon Illustration alt.com. It's all one word.
Okay.
And that, I mean, that's really it.
Okay. Well, Mark, thank you for coming on. It was a pleasure talking to you. And honestly, I wish you all the best. I hope your dreams come true. Honestly, I hope your graphic novels get wildly popular. That would be great. So,
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it.
anyway, all right. Well, thanks again for coming on.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
thanks for having me.
Yep. Okay, guys, one last thing really quick. I would love it if you have any experiences that you want to share. I would love to do more interviews. I want to focus on illustrators, particularly those who are working in the youth and children's market. Creator of any kind in that market. I think I would like, but we'll focus on illustrators. So if you would like to do an interview, I would love to do that. I'm going to talk to you about art. I'm going to talk about faith. And if you're comfortable doing that, then sign up. You can send an email to me. I'll provide that in the details below. Go ahead, if you like this content, go ahead and subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and put some comments down below. I want to hear from you guys about your experiences and your thoughts on everything we've talked about so far. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one.